Hello and happy Pride Month, everybody. Woohoo. Yeah, baby. Here on this channel, Pride Month means a little extra because it's a game. For those who don't know, it's a game is a show that I do throughout this month, where pretty much I just talk about gay stuff. It's called Game because it's the term, it's gay month, with letters just chopped off the front and the end. So yeah, it's time we talk about gay things. Ooh. Today I just want to talk about a really soft, simple, like, what's Pride Month? What's it about? What's it for? What's the actual purpose of it? And, what does it mean to me? So to start, I want to express something that I feel stupid having to say, but that's that Pride Month isn't new. For those who don't know, the initial spark for it, or at least the initial huge, important spark for it was in 1969. Older than most people watching this by a fair bit. It's older than both of my parents. It's almost as old as my grandma. It's not a big, brand new deal. It's brand new that it's treated with respect and care, and it's treated like it matters, and it's brand new that so many people are comfortable in their skins enough to go out and do stuff about it. However, it's not necessarily new, We're coming up on, 50 years, is it? 79, 89, 99, 09, 19. So that was 50. We're coming up on 60 years of Pride Month being a thing. So that's crazy. The first big march done for Pride was a year later in 1970. I have a little bit of notes pulled up, but I'm going to try to just throw what I've got. Because there was the Stonewall uprising in 69. Then a year later, as an anniversary to that, was the first real Pride March. Not that there had never been a march for Pride before, for queer activism, but that was the first time that there was this big organized event for that, which is pretty sick. Organized the Christopher Street Liberation Day March, which was in New York, which is the first official gay pride march, which is pretty cool. The original Pride Parade, really, which is super dope. And then throughout the mid-70s, bisexual activist Brenda Howard, who is widely credited as being the main originator of Pride Month, coordinated the first multiple-day series of marches and events, proposing the idea of this broader month-long event, which is now what we do, which is pretty dope. And then, almost 20 years after her doing that, is when Clinton would have officially declared June as Gay Month. I think at the time it wasn't actually labeled just queer pride. I'm pretty sure it was specifically labeled as gay and lesbian Pride Month, which at the time wouldn't have included other people. It wouldn't have included people that are trans, non-binary. It wouldn't have included anybody who is asexual or pansexual. Just gay and lesbian. Which is crazy to think about how 20 so years ago, what's the math, 27 years at this point? 27 years ago, the idea of Pride Month wasn't this super big deal. It was still a big deal, and the president was in on it, but it was still so finite in what it was talking about. It wasn't very broad. It didn't talk about everybody, which is crazy, because that's sort of what it is now. And now it changes so often, and there's so many things added to it, and it's so much more broader. And it's kind of neat. It's very neat. It's very neat. It just blows me away how the history of it is This is weird. Going back to that Stonewall operation in 1969, a lot of people in queer spaces think about it, and their brain goes to, like, the people who would have been brave enough to stand up would have been, like, the average Joe. And a lot of times that's what it is, where it's like, when fighting for, like, liberation of racial issues, a lot of times it's like people, especially in certain circles, try to push the idea of people of color were saved by the whites, or women were saved by men, or the queers must have been saved by straight people. And in all of those situations, there are whites that were involved with people of color getting freedom. There were men involved with women getting more freedoms. There were straight people involved in queers getting more freedoms. But most of the activists who brought Pride Month into what it is now, most of them were people of color. Queer and transgender people of color who did pretty much whatever they could to get their ideologies and their wants and their needs out there. And that's kind of where the whole, like, Stonewall riots of New York City happened. Most of them were people of color, which is super neat because it's so... I'm trying to think of the right terminology because I don't want to come across as disrespectful, and I don't want to... It's just such a big deal. I don't know. Marsha P. Johnson was a black trans woman. I don't believe she's currently alive. But she was like the central figure of the Stonewall stuff. Which kind of puts her as like the godmother of Pride, which is super neat. She was a drag queen, a sex worker. She was, I believe, a person of color. I believe she was black. She founded the Transvestite Action Revolutionaries, or STAR, to house homeless gay people, which is beautiful, specifically gay youth, which sadly there's a lot of. And it's beautiful to read that. It's beautiful to think about it. It's beautiful to know that these people are not new and they're still around. And a lot of times in gay spaces, there's a lot of... I would call it a loud minority. It's not actually a lot of them. It's just people are loud. There's a lot of low-key racism in queer spaces. And I feel like it's important to point out to queers and gays and trannies and all that fun stuff. I can say that word. I feel like it's important to point out that so many people who... Oh dear hell. Why am I computer geeking? Back to my point. I think it's really important to point out how important people of color have been for Pride as a whole, for queer awareness and queer activism, and how important they were then, how important they've been since then, and how important they still are now. And I feel like a lot of it is people who are in queer spaces are, for the most part, people that have been through some stuff, right? Or they're from places that aren't interested in helping with queer studies and queer understanding and queer activism and da-da-da-da-da. And it pushes them to have, like, an internalized issue with, like, an internalized homophobia, right? Which I myself deal with. And that leads to them looking for something to take that out on, which then leads to that weird, like, I'm open for queers unless they're this type of queer, which is, I don't get it, I don't understand, but, like, it's there, and I think that's something we need to work on as a unit. This will be my third Pride Month, where I am comfortable in who I am and trying to find myself and understanding of the fact that I myself am a queer, the fact that I myself am trans, the fact that I myself am gay. So it's going to be interesting because it's the third one I've gone through. It's the third time I've made videos during it, but it's the first time I've been properly happy with being queer, which feels weird, but it's true. I'm getting to the point where I care about being queer. I'm getting to the point where I understand it a little better, and I am closer and closer to just loving myself, and I think that's really important. So yeah, I will see you guys next time I record something. Next week should have 2 videos, one for Sagame, a Pride Month thing, and then one that's not. Thank you guys. I love you. Learn to love yourselves, and happy Pride. Bye-bye.